We are seeing the danger of over-reliance on the United States economically and also from a security perspective. Canada very much wants to be part of our fabulous Golden Dome system if they remain a separate but unequal nation. Adding it will be $0 if they become our cherished 51st state. As a confident country with an ambitious plan, we look outward. We look to Europe. We look to Asia. We look to new partners that we're going to deepen with our major European partners, so that we become defense partners with them. Spending over 75 cents on every dollar of capital spend for defense goes to the United States. That's not smart. The US auto sector, can it be VI viable if it's just an American auto sector? What if your neighbor demanded you move in with him or pay a penalty? That sounds like a joke, right? But that's exactly what President Trump suggested to Canada. In one of the most shocking and insulting posts in recent diplomatic history, Trump made an online offer that stunned Canada. He didn't just propose a trade deal, he offered Canada a discount if they agreed to become part of the United States. Canada very much wants to be part of our fabulous Golden Dome system. It will cost $61 billion US, equivalent to more than 84 billion Canadian if they remain a separate but unequal nation. Adding it will be $0 if they become our cherished 51st state. Trump ended with, "They are considering the offer." This post from Trump didn't just break diplomatic rules, it smashed them. He treated Canada like a company negotiating a merger, not a sovereign country with its own identity and history. By calling Canada separate but unequal, Trump insulted a proud nation that has stood beside the US through wars, crises, and decades of close partnership. The idea of Canada becoming the 51st state isn't just ridiculous, it's dangerous. It shows that Trump views other countries as things to be owned, not as equal allies. The offer wasn't about unity, it was about control. Even worse, Trump made it seem like Canada was considering the offer, which was completely false. And for Canada, it was a wake-up call. If this is how Trump treats allies, then maybe it's time to start looking elsewhere for partners. Of course, Canada didn't stay quiet. Within hours, Prime Minister Mark Carney gave the world a firm and respectful reply, one that reminded everyone exactly what Canada stands for. Mark Carney's office was quick to respond, writing, "The Prime Minister has been clear at every opportunity, including in his conversations with President Trump, that Canada is an independent, sovereign nation, and it will remain one." Carney's words were short but powerful. He didn't get emotional. He didn't attack Trump. Instead, he did something even stronger. He reminded the world that Canada is a free, independent country that doesn't take orders. This was more than just a reply, it was a declaration of independence. If the American president can suggest annexation over social media, who knows what could come next? This single moment hardened Canada's resolve. Instead, he did something even stronger. He reminded the world that Canada is a free, independent country that doesn't take orders. This was more than just a reply, it was a declaration of independence. If the American president can suggest annexation over social media, who knows what could come next? This single moment hardened Canada's resolve. Instead, it pushed Canada further away than ever before. When Prime Minister Mark Carney stepped into the Oval Office to meet with President Trump, many believed it was a fresh start. After years of tension, this meeting was supposed to fix things. But Carney made it clear afterward the meeting was just the beginning, and not an easy one. I would term it this way. The Oval Office was the end of the beginning, re-establishing sovereign-to-sovereign dialogue, much more constructive engagement on some of the big issues. We've had fairly intensive discussions since then. We've got more that we need to do before we're satisfied that we have a partnership that is in Canada's. Carney's use of the phrase end of the beginning tells us a lot. It means that Canada is not yet satisfied with how the US is behaving. The word sovereign is extremely important here. It shows that Canada is no longer willing to be treated like a small player in its relationship with America. It demands respect. Trump's approach to diplomacy has never been about building friendships, it's about domination. And Carney's careful words show that Canada knows this. Behind the scenes, there might be meetings and handshakes, but those are just images. The real truth is, Canada doesn't trust Trump's words. It needs actions and fair ones. Carney also hinted at pressure behind closed doors. The intensive discussions he mentioned are likely filled with Trump pushing for one-sided deals, but Canada is pushing back. Carney wants a deal that benefits Canada, not just Trump's political image. This moment reflects a deeper problem. Trump sees every relationship as a transaction. But Canada sees the US as a long-term ally, not just a customer or opponent. That mismatch is creating tension. Canada doesn't want a trade war, but it's not afraid of one either. Even worse than the failed tone of the meetings are the economic threats that keep coming from Trump. One of the biggest is aimed straight at Canada's auto sector, something that employs thousands and is deeply tied into the US economy. The president does. He still has the tariffs against the auto sector and talks about making it economically unviable to make cars in Canada and to move it to the United States. The US auto sector, can it be VI viable if it's just an American auto sector? Canada, Canadian. We have a great auto sector, great auto parts sector. That integration of the auto sector is part of what will make North America competitive. Trump's threats to Canada's car industry are not just foolish, they're dangerous. Car manufacturing in North America depends on cross-border cooperation. Engines might be built in Ontario, transmissions in Michigan, and the final vehicle in Mexico. That's how the system works. Trying to break it apart with tariffs will hurt everyone. Carney knows this. That's why he called out the reality. The US auto sector cannot survive without Canada. Trump's idea that cars should only be made in America shows his lack of understanding about modern global supply chains. You can't just slap a flag on a car and pretend the whole thing was built at home. Canada's response isn't just defensive, it's smart. Carney is signaling that Canada is not scared of walking away. If the US wants to play hardball, Canada will find better partners. Already, Carney is increasing talks with the European Union and key Asian markets. Mexico, too, is showing interest in joint economic strategies with Canada. Strategies that may leave the US behind. In trying to punish Canada, Trump is only pushing it further away. What once was a deep friendship is now becoming a cautious, calculated relationship. Canada won't be bullied. It has options and it's starting to use them. For decades, Canada and the United States shared more than just a border. They shared trade, defense, manufacturing, and deep trust. But in 2025, that trust is fading. Prime Minister Mark Carney has made it clear the days of Canada, depending on the United States, are over. We are seeing the danger of over-reliance on the United States economically and also from a security perspective, so we will cooperate where necessary when it's in both of our interests very clearly, but we won't necessarily cooperate. So we as a confident country with an ambitious plan, we look outwards, we look to Europe, we look to Asia. We look to new partners that we're going to deepen with. This statement marks a turning point in Canada's history. Carney isn't just hinting at change, he's announcing it. Canada is done waiting for the US to act like a stable partner. It will now choose its own path with or without American approval. Carney's words are powerful. We won't necessarily cooperate. That's a clear warning to Washington. Canada is no longer under the US umbrella. It is a confident, self-reliant nation that can and will work with Europe, Asia, and other global players if needed. This is not just about policy, it's about survival. Trump's unstable behavior, aggressive tariffs, and reckless diplomacy have made Canada realize that relying too much on the US is dangerous. Whether it's trade, military support, or environmental issues, the US under Trump has shown it's unpredictable. That's no way to build a future. Carney's vision of a one Canadian economy is also important. It means breaking down internal barriers within Canada and becoming a strong united force that can negotiate from a position of strength, not fear. It's a strategy that protects Canadian jobs, values, and independence. Canada's pivot isn't just about leaving something behind, it's about moving towards something better. One of the clearest signs of this shift is how Canada is changing its defense strategies. For decades, Canada relied heavily on US military support through NATO and joint defense programs. But that too is starting to change, and Carney explained how now we're going to do it in a way that is in the best interest of Canada, with partners on which we can rely, get best value for money, but also make more of that investment here in Canada. We're spending over 75 cents on every dollar of capital spend for defense goes to the United States. That's not smart. What's better if we spend more at home, if we have diversified partnerships? Look, part of what's been happening in the last few months since I became Prime Minister is a number of conversations of increasing specificity with our major European partners so that we become defense partners with them, that we become part of a very big build-out of their defense industrial base, which will have big benefits for jobs here in Canada.